So the next piece I want to look into is this H85 serial I/O card. It's got the cassette tape interface and a standard serial port over on this side. I've gone through the assembly instructions. I've compared the jumpers. It's jumpered as far as I can tell to factory defaults. It's set up for TTY. It's 600 baud on the serial transmit and receive and 1200 baud on the cassette. The COM jumper's in down here, which says it's one cassette recorder for both playback and record. As I recall, that was the jumper setting there. It's got the right cap in, I believe, for the 1200 baud. There's a tuning procedure for this, which I have not put it through. I don't know if that'll be required or not. The one thing I don't have are the 3.5 millimeter jacks with the phono ends on them to you can be able to hook the cassette up. So what it did come with, though, is the cable here for the auxiliary. So I'm going to use this auxiliary cable to get an idea of the length I need for the cassette cables to keep them all around the same length. And luckily I have two of these. I actually have three, but two will be enough. I want to cut this one to the same length as the one I just cut. So match these up. Doesn't have to be perfect. Just kind of, and of course, being cables, it's picked up every other loose cable it could. Oh, really? Oh. And we're going to cut this one in approximately the same location. So these will become our cassette in and out using these two right angle phono connectors. I do want to get a piece of shrink tubing on one of these to identify whether it's cassette out or in. I'm trying to decide on a good color for that, and shrink tubing that'll fit over the cable. That's definitely too small. If I got anything larger, I think that's the same diameter. Yeah, that's the same diameter. Gonna have to look for something a little bigger, not too big. It's probably gonna end up being this blue here, and I've got a couple pieces of this blue floating around in here that will work, just to identify both ends of the cable. The white again is a little too small. So we got our bits of shrink tubing. I need to remove some of this out of here. Oh, cables are just such a pain. It's a necessary evil. I need to prep the ends on this. And it's a very heavy cable. Let's see if I can score the outer jacket enough without tearing into the inner insulation. This is always a little tricky to do. Here with the X-Acto, just to cut a little deeper into it. Get the glasses with a little bit better field of view for me. And we'll just kind of, wow, that is really tough. I'm still not through. It'd probably be worth going to see if I could find a wire stripper for this. There, I see copper there. Yeah, this outer jacket is really thick. Okay, we're getting close. I'm afraid I've cut too deep here. Wow, is that really... Nope, that looks really good. So I've got a very nice copper wrap around the center conductor for shielding. It's very bright, shiny, clean copper. This was I think a high quality cable. I got them for $1 a cable at a Hamfest, and grabbed them actually for a different project, but they're perfect for this project as well. Get all of those loose. Just wrap those a bit. And then do the same thing on the other one. Scored. Be a little more aggressive here. I know this is tough. Yes, I'm aware I'm cutting towards myself. See what we've got inside of these shells. I'm not exactly sure how they open. Just like that. Well, it's a little screw for the center conductor. That's interesting. Huh. That's different from what I was expecting. Don't necessarily have a problem with that. That is rather curious. Of course, this will attach to that point. This. Just trying to kind of get a feel for length. The ground through there. I want to strip that back approximately a ½ inch. Need to be a whole lot more careful here. Oh yeah, that is nice insulation. I think it can actually be stripped back a little further than that. I want to do the same thing with this one. Check that for distance. Can actually be stripped back quite a bit more. Again, check that for length. And that looks pretty good. About this one, it might want to be stripped back a little bit further. No, I think it's good as well. Now, tin up these wires. The insulation will, of course, in the white pull back a bit with tinning. This is nice shiny copper on the wire, so it should take the solder very readily, and it does. Just no problem tinning that up. Let's tin this guy up as well. Not that I need all that length. I don't. Now the same for this guy. Those. Hopefully that'll fit through the little hole there and hasn't ended up too large, and it does. So I will crimp this at this point. To get a nice solid strain relief. Which we've got. Well, okay, I'm good for this one. I need to remember to put the heat shrink tubing on the other one to identify the cable. See if we can get the solder to flow here. Actually clean this up, but I got a pretty good joint there. That'll take a bit to cool. That doesn't look bad. Oh, it's still very hot. Take the other cable and get those pieces of shrink tubing on it. Hopefully this will shrink down enough to stick on the ends. Put it down out of the way. See if I can get this through. Trim that shorter. It's got a ball of solder there, but we're not going to need all that length, so that's going to end up there, and we can crimp as well. I wanted to bend the wire lead out straight. A little bit of flex here would have probably helped, although that's not taking solder bad, so I think I'm fine. I'm going to do here, I'll actually do it on this one that's cooled off. Is I'm going to loosen that little screw up. I'm going to try to wrap the tin wire up underneath it. Hopefully I can without the screw falling out. Like so. I've got a broken tip on these little needle nose and it makes them kind of hard to work with. And we'll just use the screwdriver's not working well for this. We'll just cinch that up. Cut that excess lead out of there. I don't see any shorts or issues. We will test the cable. That sits in there. In some fashion here. See that this is way too high here. Trim that back. Is it meant to go like that? Yeah, it's meant to go like that. There, it popped in. And we do the same thing on the other one. Wrap that around. Interesting that that's a screw connection there and not a solder connection, although it should be fine. Trim that extra wire out of there. Now the same thing with the black hood. Same issue as the other one where I soldered the ground on is way too high. How far up does that stick? A lot further than I have it. There it dropped into the alignment grooves. Let's do a quick continuity check. And it shorted. Shoot, I was afraid of that. This one isn't. Shoot, well that kind of sucks. I should have ground to ground and positive to positive. So this one's good. This one, for whatever reason, isn't. If I just got a little bit too much heat. See why there'd be a short. Not that that's a permanent fix. Okay, that's what it was. Why did that cut into that? did that cut into that? Doesn't look to me like the white insulation melted back. Make sure it's, oh, it's still shorted. Shoot. Well, that's no good. Well, we just undo everything we did and try again. See if I can get the crimp here on the strain relief to release. Oh, excuse me. First thing is make sure there's not something wrong in the connector itself. And there's not. Screw back in before I lose it. I think we're just going to have to cut the cable and try again. I must have got enough heat that it melted through the white insulation, although I don't see where it did. Let's take a look inside. Yeah, it melted through just enough to be a pain. Well, that sucks. This is why you test. Go through there. Not through there yet. Getting close. Yeah, I probably should have trimmed this flush before I started. Such is life. Pull all the braid I can around to one side. Can be a little tiny bit more stripped off. Make sure I still don't have a short, which I don't. Continuity still through to the tip. Excessively damaged the wire. So I think I'm only going to tip or tin the inner wire, and then I will tin and attach the second wire at the same time. So it's not double heating and stressing the insulation. Not quite as happy doing that, but it really sucks to have gotten that far, and having ran into that issue. So let's re-crimp enough to hold it in place without completely closing it up again, just in case I have to tear it down yet again. And let's go ahead and get the ground connection in place. And before I go any further, check yet for another short. Everything looks normal. Screw just started. Attempt to wrap this around under him again. Sorry if much of this is off camera. From that back. Really should be fine under there. One more time for shorts. Can't spot the end here. Don't have a short. Have continuity. Have a short. Have continuity to the tip. Okay. Second attempt was successful. Go ahead and tighten this crimp up again, as it is really the only strain relief on this cable. Back into the hood. Time for good measure, just because now I'm completely paranoid. Okay, we've ended up with two hopefully serviceable cables. I will break the heat gun out, shrink this tubing on, and I think the next step here will be to jump into the computer and just do some basic tests of that card.